All right, looks good. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to PT on Ice Daily Show, Q&A Monday. I am Dr. Jeff Moore, currently serving as the CEO of ICE, lead faculty for our cervical and lumbar spine divisions. Wonderful to see everybody on a Monday. A couple housekeeping things coming up. CMFA, we've got are both firing up April 27th, and then early May, bunch of online courses, persistent pain firing up on the 11th. Then we have MMOA, modern management of the older adult, essential foundations, and we have clinical management of the fitness athlete, pregnancy and postpartum. So a whole bunch of courses firing up in April and May online, as I know that is very much the venue that we are all in at this moment. All right, team, couple great really want to tackle this morning on Q&A Monday. And the first one is, what tips do you have to become an innovator, right? Which all kind of broaden to think of, becoming someone that creates something that legitimately advances our profession. That when you look back, it's like, hey, that person definitely moved things in a significant right direction. Like, how do you create that world during your working life? And I think it's a real challenge that in any discipline, learning from your mentors, but also trusting your novel ideas, right, that cause you to deviate from your mentors. And you see mistakes on both sides of this. It doesn't matter. This is not physical therapy specific. I mean, any trade or craft or art that you are trying to make a unique contribution in, this problem exists. And I think it's really worth kind of looking at how you're going through life, your mentors and your creativity, and thinking about these common mistakes, because you see it on both sides, right? On the one side, you see the people who have an excessive urge to innovate, right? In that because of that, they rush it and they fail to assimilate the massive knowledge from the folks that came before them, right? This is kind of, if you want to look physical therapy specific, you see this most commonly in the overconfident new grad, right? But doesn't take the time to stay under the wing of those that have been here grinding for decades, that have seen so many things come and go, that have been able to create results using a certain method that have stood the test of time, right? They don't take the time to stay underneath that person and learn those skills, stay in that apprentice role because they're rushing or they're urging to innovate, right? That can be a massive having that foundation of what's come before you. It's really hard to know what that unique gap is to fill that's going to result in a really meaningful shift in whatever discipline you're a part of. It's sort of the old, you got to know your history, otherwise you're doomed to repeat it. But it's that idea where if you don't know what came before you, you're going to have such a hard time creating something truly unique and valuable. But the opposite can be a problem as well, right? This is when somebody, a lifelong believer or a diehard believer of the original dogma they learned, and they almost struggle to appreciate or allow anything that challenges it, right? They basically stay a student for life, which generally we look at as a very good thing, but it's not a balanced rule, right? They've really taken that first dogma they learned and were never allowed, they believed in it so strongly and just spent their entire career trying to never did anything novel outside of it. When it really comes down, you think about these two sides of the attempt to innovate and lead a productive career, and it really comes down to having the humility to replicate a lot, but having the courage to innovate enough. That's what creates space for a unique and valuable contribution. You do need to deeply respect those who came before you, do the time learning the trade, especially in the early phases, but then be willing to say, you know what, this feels kind of weird because it's a lot different than what I learned, right? But I really feel like if we did blank, I think something very special could happen. The willingness to trust that at the right time and be able to do things that your mentors before you did not. You got to realize that if those mentors you revere so much were to come back around and do shoes, they would not do the exact same thing because times are always different, right? Variables you're playing with are always unique, So they would have done things differently too. So don't fault yourself or feel guilty if you're thinking about going a bit different direction than maybe some of your mentors went, because they would have too had they come back with different information. So again, it's that humility to replicate a lot, but the courage to innovate enough that puts you in the place. And think about kind of where you fall in that sweet spot, because I think it's really easy to fall. I can't resist to say, I think it's better to think about being not so much you being an innovator, but more so think about being a part of a team that innovates, right? Be someone who's a part of massive innovation. And this kind of goes back, because teams are really far better at innovating than individuals. And it kind of goes back, if you're in a leadership role right now, it sort of goes back to the Steve Jobs quote, right? That it doesn't make sense to hire smart people and then tell them what to do, people so they can tell us what to do. And it kind of comes back to embracing that quote. Because if you think about it, a lot of times, because they're not as entrenched in current circumstance, your newest people, either new hires or new folks you bring on the team, folks that are coming from a novel circumstance, are often going to have the most innovative ideas because they're coming from outside of the fold, right? They're seeing things differently than everybody else, but they will need the most help in shaping it down. This is why innovation happens best on teams, because it's the combination of those players that allows, if everybody's open-minded, that allows for idea generation, but also idea shaping and execution. So I think that as we think about this question and relate it back to our lives, we've got to stop thinking about yourself being an innovator and think about how can you play a constructive role on a team that innovates, because that's where the power oftentimes lies. Hope that gives you something to think about. I really appreciate that one. Okay, number 2, this is a really good one. I have a lot to say on this, but with all the demands of running a business, what strategies do you use to stay focused and present in the moment when you're being pulled in multiple directions at once? I think every business owner, team leader has suffered from that challenge, right? Of you want to do that deep work, right? You want to. The first thing I've got to say is we've got to stop revering deep work to such a level. I did a whole podcast on that book, right? And don't get me wrong, there's some really positive things, but there's no question that in this age of distraction, it has become natural to vilify that and celebrate the opposite, right? It's become really natural to vilify distraction with all the devices and et cetera, and to really celebrate things about focused, non-distracted deep work. It is profoundly satisfying for the creator of it, right? You got to appreciate that. Like, it's profoundly satisfying for the person doing it, right? It is necessary for a percentage of your role, right, to go really, really deep, right, and drill down far enough. But that percentage is not very high, particularly when you're leading a ton of people, right? Your primary skill or ability needs to be to create quality within chaos, not to run from chaos to create quality, but to be able to create quality within chaos. Yes, we would all love to be on a mountain meadow, right? Or to be in an off-the-grid cabin, putting the finishing touches on our masterpiece. I appreciate the romanticism of that. But unfortunately, what you need to do is be connecting people in real time, to be giving your approval or disapproval so a project can move forward productively. From overseeing and saying, hold on before we move forward, 1 second, someone's got to change this. It's your ability to handle that massive dynamic stream of information and act. It is that, not whittling the masterpiece, right, in the mountain meadow, but being in the trenches with a million distractions and creating quality out of that chaos. As romantic as the mountain meadow, but it's the reality that moves things forward and creates productive teams. Now, all that said, I do think that in your individual role, you do need to reflect and say, okay, but there is a place for that real deep drill down work where I create my absolute best. Maybe it's my most creative or my most refined products. There's a place for that. But you got to figure out how much of that actually exists in your life that's needed, not desired, Not desired. Everybody wants to be in the meadow. How much is needed as your role of the leader of that team, right? Once you figure that out, right? For me, I feel like it's 2 hours, right? In the morning, 5:30 to 7:30, right? The things that need the most serious concentration, that have to be done perfectly, that are complex projects, multivariate, my whole mind needs to be engaged. How many hours do you need? Okay, carve those out. Same time every day, no exception. These 90 minutes, I go undisturbed. All the notifications go off. I do my most complex, highest level work that require every single neuronal synapse that I have. Good. You have those every day. Now, because you have those, make that time sacred and then welcome, not only allow, welcome distractions at all other times. Embrace the chaos. Allow it to be incredibly chaotic, streams of information running back and forth, because don't fight that, embrace it and create quality within it, because that next day you've got those 90 minutes. So on that to-do list, you've got your columns and you know which ones require deep work. You know which ones are really more touch and go. And it's the organization of that and how it plays into your actual hours in your day that allow you to do something both deeply meaningful and satisfying, but also that's the key. That's the key. Because most people spend all their day fighting distractions and wishing they weren't being bothered. I love being bothered. Being bothered means that things are moving forward, right? That you just gave the approval to a team and now they're going to go on for a few weeks and develop something awesome. The more of those things happening, the more you're raising the bar, but you also know the few things that need to be allocated to your deep work time and you've got that prioritized. That's the key. Stop trying to be one or the other. Welcome distractions at all times. Maintain the sacred time. The combination of those creates excellence. Awesome. Okay, I'm not going to go on forever because the last couple of Q&A Mondays, I've went on forever. There are still a few questions I want to ask, but I'm sure I'll pass the mic now. It's time for someone else to grab Q&A Monday. So we'll chat with the team, get somebody else on here next week, give you all a little break from me. Hope everybody has a wonderful day. Hope everybody's still healthy. Doing well, trucking through this time. We're getting maybe Leadership Thursday next week. Take care.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.